Hey everyone, Georgie here with Ukraine Matters. I hope you had a nice Christmas, but we're going to be jumping into the situation on the ground and I will explain you how things are looking up. And I gotta say, for the most part, they're great. The worst parts and the bad parts basically are the fact that Russia is still shelling Ukrainian cities and civilian population is suffering. And especially, I'm pretty sure you've heard that exactly on the Christmas day, Kherson city was shelled with Russian munitions, field artillery, so there's like no air defense possible against it. And a lot of people have died. Completely inhumane that what Russia is doing. And it just underscores that they haven't learned a thing in these 10 months. But it all doesn't matter because we know that Ukraine is gonna win. So in the end, it doesn't matter. So let me switch to the red ones. Now, some time ago, I told you that the situation around here, around Dibrova, around the North Kharkiv Oblast, like the rest, that small part of Kharkiv Oblast that Russia still controls, Russia has been sending reinforcements because they want to do a deflecting attack that would deflect Ukrainians from going for Svatove. And we know that Russia kept bringing in reinforcements, and now additional reinforcements have also arrived. So Russians are really looking to put pressure on this side to essentially deflect Ukrainian forces. And their goal is actually, well, I mean, it's actually quite clear. You don't need to be a big strategist. They want to assault Dvorichna and Dibro and Kupiansk, two cities that are important for Ukraine. Kupiansk, obviously, a little bit more. And they want to deflect Ukrainian resources from attacking Svatove. Now, from Svatove here are also additional resources have been reinforcing the Nizhnya Duvyanka line. This is where Ukrainians have been slowly pushing in towards towards getting to Nizhnya Duvyanka and cutting the road. We also hear that Ukrainian forces are slowly advancing towards Svatove, and Svatove is actually now within artillery range, the field artillery range of Ukrainians that are advancing. So majority of positions, defense positions around Svatove are now being able to be struck by the Ukrainian field artillery, which going to make things just a little bit easier for Ukrainians. But we know that Ukraine is not dedicating as much resources in this northern area as they are, for example, in the southern part around Kreminna. And around Kreminna, the situation have improved significantly. So around this place, the ground, it didn't solidify good enough yet, but because it's a little bit more forest like situation around here, so the ground is just a little bit solid in itself. There is not as many just fields, and Ukraine has been getting good progress. Last time I reported that Ukrainian forces have entered Kreminna city line from the south, and there has been a significant fight for the towns in this area. Well, now Russian sources are reporting that not only there are fightings already are essentially happening in Kreminna in the like the building districts, like so inside of city, but moreover, Russian sources are reporting that Dibrova, which is over here, and Chervona Popivka, which is over here, are now controlled by Ukrainians. This has not been confirmed by the Ukraine General Staff or many of my sources, but it is definitely something to be aware of if this will come true. I tend to agree that this is about the time and kind of following how the situation developed, that we definitely should expect that both Dibrova and Chervona Popivka will soon gonna get colored into Ukrainian colors, which means that not only the fighting for Kreminna has started, that inside of the city line, that the position around Kreminna is deteriorating and deteriorating fast for Russians. So we can see that the situation can escalate really fast for the Russians and they can lose the town. Obviously, the road is already cut. And now the question is how long until Ukrainians will be able to either take fire control of this southern road or cut it altogether. We're going to see if Kreminna will be a second Liman or there will be more Russian troops just being captured. We'll see. Both options are good. There are fighting that is still happening around this area of Bilohorivka, Yakovlivka. over here. As you can see, Russians are trying to expand their control. This is happening, fighting in the fields. They're trying to get into the Solidar and from the north. So this is basically the advancements that we're looking for. And again, so far, nothing yet suggests that the situation in Solidar would be threatened. The fact that Russians are advancing is not nice, but it's not critical because the advancing tempos are not fast enough. And Ukrainians, if needed, they have the ability to reinforce that. So then we move towards Bakhmut. I'm not going to go too much into details around the tactical positions in Bakhmut, but what I will tell you is that Ukrainians, well, not just Ukrainians, if you haven't heard, then Azov regiment has arrived to Bakhmut. So in the latest rotation and supplemental resources to Bakhmut, Ukrainians have sent Azov regiment into Bakhmut, and we can now say that inside of the city line of Bakhmut, there are no Russian troops. We have reports that they've been pushed towards east, or both on the eastern front. Also in the south, we also have full reports that Opitne is fully liberated, despite here it's colored red. And right now, Russians are trying to advance in this deep south, like super south, along this channel line from Andriivka, Kurdyumivka. Now, this is all far away from Bakhmut. Bakhmut itself stands firm. It is fine. It is great. So I just want to say that whenever we're talking about the fighting around Bakhmut, for over 6 months now, like 5 months, 6 months, we've been hearing from all of the YouTubers and other sources that are saying that Bakhmut is about to fall and it's just a matter of days. And I was always telling that the Bakhmut is fine. And I'm very happy that most of the audience agree that it's fine. This is a great example of how you veto the who do you follow, right? So we both did predictions. There were sources that were said that Bakhmut is about to fall, and there were sources that saying that Bakhmut is fine. Now, months and months later, we see the result of this. We see that the Russian forces are being pushed further away from Bakhmut proper, and the only small minimal gains that anything Russia is getting is on a far outskirts around the far villages around Bakhmut, which essentially explains it in great details that Russians are pretty much grinding themselves down. And I'll just quickly finish it up before going, because we're going to be talking about the map. Around Avdiivka, the situation is still tense. There is still local fighting going on, which is fine. Around Marinka, Ukrainian forces have counterattacked and retook a couple of streets. So again, it's pretty much a standstill. There are some fighting that are happening in Vuhledar, but it's again, it's more local fighting, and the rest is pretty much just artillery duels, and we don't see so far any action on the southern front. So this kind of covers the map update if you want to be here just for that, and I'm going to be moving into the vlogging section. And then let's move to the second topic that I want to talk about, the shelling of Engels military base. This kind of goes well together. And some other problems that Russian military is having. And it all we should consider in the prism of overlooking it from the perspective of Putin stating that he wants a 1.5 million men large army, and he wants to have renewed military forces soon enough. This is all complete joke, obviously, because what he's essentially saying is, I already talked on the stream that I saw the dollar signs inside on the eyes of all these corrupt generals that were listening to him, because he said that you have the blank check for any kind of improvements of your regiments. So they said, okay, that means we can steal all the money we need in the world and we have a blank check for it. And secondly, what he said basically is, I want to have a USSR style big military. But we already seen in this conflict that big army is good, but a highly capable, technologically advanced army that is sufficiently sized is better. So if the Russia is just going to bring up the Soviet-style military that's just going to be based on quantity, it's not going to work. Like, it's not going to work in any kind of a modern conflict. It might work against the nations that don't have a significant backing of the West, like, for example, maybe Kazakhstan or some other countries around Russia. It might help to dominate it, but it's not, definitely not going to help in the war in Ukraine. Moreover, if we're going to see and look at what Russia is actually delivering and not delivering to the front lines in Ukraine, we can see that the whole idea of having this big army right now is actually a joke. Firstly, we definitely saw the ability of Ukraine to now hit the strategic airfield of Engels again. The first attack already happened some time ago. They knew that this might happen. They knew that Ukraine has the capabilities, and yet their air defense still didn't defend jack shit. This only means one thing, that Russian air defense and air defense capabilities are basically a Swiss cheese of protection. They're obsolete, they are old, and whenever we're talking like will NATO will be able to defeat Russia, especially if we have into some kind of intercontinental ballistic missile war, what Russia is saying, we have this new Sarmat missile. Guys, I want you to look at this attack, second attack on the Russian strategic airbase of Engels. If first one was kind of dismissed as it was a surprise attack, then this time it was exactly the same area struck. So, and it was still being able to execute the attack. So that means only one thing, that whenever US and NATO allies will need to strike any kind of ballistic missile that would try to be prepared to be shot at US and allies, it's just going to get destroyed. So we should be completely understanding and safe that nothing is going to happen. Russia is not going to even lift the one rocket off the ground before it's going to get completely wiped out by the NATO bombers. But in the perspective of this war, Russia is having it rough. We see that what we've been reporting for a longer time, that the morale of Russians is being dented in, that there is some kind of shortage of equipment. We now see more and more of these dents appearing. Now, we see that there are reports, firstly, that the strategic airbase is being hit with their anti-air systems not being capable. The equipment that Russians are sending to the front lines is pretty bad. Some of the tanks are not even having reactive armors. And while there are still tanks, it's fine because Ukraine already destroyed maybe half of Russian tanks fleet. So, I mean, just a little bit more, and it's going to get to the critical level at which there is not going to be enough armor on the field because the front line is just so big. Secondly, there are reports that on the Bakhmut directions, there are already forces that are being sent to attack with no protective vests and no helmets. And they're being sent out also sometimes in civilian clothing, like, well, half civilian clothing, half camo. Now, you can say, yeah, but those are prisoners. They're going to be like the lowest of the low. But this is indicative of the fact that they already not having the supplies they need for certain groups. Yes, it's the lowest priority groups, but still, now, if they finally starting increasing their military significantly, where are they going to get the equipment for them, right? If it's just going to be people with no vests, no helmets, and with no hand munition, what then? Next, we also see that inside of Russia there is big problems with the economy, like especially on the perceptive level, because we need to understand that in the economy, a perception and expectation is quite a big topic. So when we see the lines of people standing in the ATMs with no money, that is a bigger deal actually than you can think, because it raises the negative expectations of the Russians. Moreover, there are more videos coming up of Russian units surrendering in large quantities, like more than 10, 15 and more people. And again, this is great. There are more reports of Russians leaving their positions. They are going against the grain for fighting in Ukraine, so newly mobilized troops. And most importantly, there are reports that Russians are running low on shells. So there is not enough shells to perform the strategy. The only strategy that Russia can work with such a poor quality of troops is to basically do the firewall, make everything grind everything into dust with artillery, and then advance. And they cannot do it anymore. So Now, does that mean that Russia is going to lose tomorrow? No, no, obviously not. But all of these dents are indicative of a great decay that is happening within the Russian military and the Russian war machine. And as I'm just going to repeat whatever I said when the mobilization started, the number of people they mobilized are not going to solve majority of the issues that I just described. They're just going to make them even more prominent. That's why I am completely confident that whatever Putin is stating, even if we take like the fact that it's not going to be trained troops, it's just going to be joke, they're going to be not poorly equipped, there are just a mountain of problems inside of the Russian military that is just being dismissed because Putin is so obsessed of the political image. This is his basically Achilles heel, and he is gonna get struck in it really, really fast. Right now, it's basically a needle after needle after needle, or a cut after cut after cut inside of that weak point of the Russians. And at some point, this accumulation of efforts are gonna make an overwhelming, it's gonna overwhelm the Russian capabilities to sustain. And we're gonna see the Russian military crumble a lot faster than anyone would expect. Now, most probably we'll see a couple of more cuts with the Ukrainian offensive, but this is definitely something to be aware of. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I love you all. I'm actually, just to finish it off, if you didn't know, for Christmas we did a humanitarian aid program, charity stream, where we donated to Razom Foundation that provides a humanitarian support for Ukrainians. And people have continued donating after the stream ended. And I'm going to post the link if you want to donate. I'm going to let it go until 27th of December. And I want to extend my thanks to people that donated after the streams. And those people are, well, there are some anonymous donors, so thank you so much if you were anonymous. But there is Scott, Josh Martin, Rue Jones, Mark Garcia, Heckshow Henry, Als Sinclair, SEFDT, Michael Reuter, Meg's Carpentry Love Dogs, thank you so much from our household to yours, Martin P, Jelly, Tim, Petra Diedrichsen, H. Stafford, Asen, Leonie Rose, sorry if I'm butchering the names, Beth, Mary, Ian Seymour, Tomasz Dushinsky, sorry if I'm butchering again, Michał Moskalunec, Alan T, Goraz Novsak, Tom B. Hansens, Ionic Decay, Tiberiu Vaida, Larry, Karen Lynn, Late or Latte, sorry, Camille, Paul from Australia, Andrew K especially, and Peter C. Thank you guys so much for donating for this charity support to Ukraine. We made this Christmas a lot happier for a lot of people in Ukraine, and I hope you feel proud about it, because you should. See you guys next time. Slava Ukraini!